When my dad called, his voice had that practiced cheerfulness he used when delivering something he didn't want questioned. "This year's just too crowded," he said. "Parking's a mess. Maybe you and the kids sit this one out." I stood at the sink, rinsing a mug, the water running too long. "No problem," I said, because that was easier than asking what crowded meant. Because experience had taught me that asking for clarity only invited defensiveness, not truth. We hung up. The house felt ordinary again. Lunchboxes half-packed. Shoes by the door. The kids arguing about whose turn it was to feed the dog. I didn't say anything. Not yet. That evening, we wrapped gifts at the dining table. The kids took their time, folding paper carefully, taping corners like they mattered. They wrote names in bubble letters. They asked questions about who would open what. I answered neutrally, choosing my words the way you choose a route around traffic. Efficient, non-committal. After bedtime, I stacked the gifts by the door. I stood there a moment, looking at them. It occurred to me quietly that we'd been here before. Always last-minute space issues. Always explanations that sounded reasonable until you held them up to the light. The next afternoon, my daughter was on the couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling while I folded laundry. She laughed at something, then went still. "Mom," she said. I looked up. She turned the phone toward me. An Instagram story played my parents' living room, rearranged to fit more people than I'd ever seen there. My cousin's friends, her boss, someone I didn't recognize holding a drink too close to the tree. A toddler from next door toddling through the frame, shrieking with delight. The caption read, "So grateful for everyone under one roof." My daughter watched my face, searching for cues. "I thought they said it was crowded," she said, not accusing, just connecting dots. I folded a towel that didn't need folding. "It looks like they made it work." She nodded slowly. "Are we not everyone?" The question landed harder than the video. I sat down next to her and put an arm around her shoulders. "We're everyone to each other," I said. It sounded rehearsed. I wished it didn't. She accepted that, the way kids accept things when adults don't give them room to argue. She handed the phone back and went to get a snack. I sat there with the quiet and let it settle. Later, I carried the gifts to the table and lined them up. I took a photo, not dramatic, not artistic, just proof of effort. Wrapping paper, bows, names written carefully. I texted the family thread, dropping these off at Goodwill, no emojis. No explanation. Then I put the phone down and waited. I didn't rush out the door. I didn't load the car. I made tea. I watched the light shift in the living room. The kids did homework at the table, pencils scratching, occasional sighs filling the space. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. My phone buzzed once. I ignored it. At 40 minutes, there was a knock, urgent, uneven. I opened the door to find my dad on the porch, coat half zipped, breathing hard like he'd run the last block. "Are you serious?" he said, before hello. "You can't do that?" I stepped aside so he could see the gifts still stacked neatly inside. "Untouched, I haven't," I said. He blinked, recalibrating. "Then why would you say, because words seem to matter around here?" I said. My voice surprised me, steady, not raised. I wanted to be clear. He ran a hand through his hair. "This is about a misunderstanding. Is it?" I asked. He looked past me, into the house, as if expecting to see the kids listening. They weren't. They were in the other room, arguing over math homework. "You know how these things get," he said. "People invite people. It grows." "I know," I said. "That's why I didn't argue when you said it was crowded." He shifted his weight. "So why punish the kids?" I held the doorframe, grounding myself in the cool wood. "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm matching energy." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means if there's no space for my kids, there's no assumption of my generosity," I said. "Those gifts were bought because I believed we were included." Silence stretched between us. A car passed. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. "You could have talked to me," he said finally. "I did," I said. "Yesterday. You told me there was no space." He opened his mouth, closed it. The certainty he'd arrived with seemed to drain, replaced by something smaller, unease maybe. Or the realization that urgency didn't automatically restore authority. "Can we just reset?" he asked. "Come by later?" The kids would love it. I pictured the living room from the video. The crowd. The way my daughter had watched my face for permission to be hurt. No, I said. Not this year. He looked genuinely startled. You're serious, Wes? He exhaled long and loud. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I shook my head. It's been this big for a while. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. Another pause. He glanced toward the street, then back at me. What about the gifts? I stepped back and picked one up, feeling its weight. They'll go somewhere they're wanted, I said. That matters to me. He didn't argue after that. He nodded once, stiffly, and turned away. I watched him walk back to his car, shoulders hunched, the urgency gone. I closed the door. That evening, we loaded the gifts into the trunk and drove to Goodwill together. The kids carried boxes inside. The clerk thanked us. Someone else's holiday would be brighter because of it. That was enough. Later, at home, we made cocoa and watched a movie we'd seen 100 times. My daughter leaned against me, warm and solid. Are we okay? She asked, half asleep. We are, I said, and meant it. The fallout came quietly in the days that followed. Texts that tiptoed, calls I let go to voicemail, explanations that circled without landing, nothing resolved neatly. Relationships stretched, thinned, but something else took shape in the space that opened, room enough for us. Room enough to stop apologizing for existing. And for the first time in a long while, that felt like more than enough.